welcome back to another episode of Advisor Talk. So I've got my good friend Andrew joining us this week. And Andrew, I just want to give you a moment to kind of introduce yourself, your practice, and tell everybody where you're from. You're down on the Panhandle in Florida, an area I'm pretty familiar with. So kind of give us a little intro to you, your practice, and how long you've been in the financial services business.
Absolutely. Well, I'm honored to be here. So I started the financial industry when I was 14. I started interning at a financial firm at 14. My parents handed me a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which flipped my world upside down, which was pretty exciting for a kid flipping hamburgers.
So was your dad the rich dad or the poor dad in the book?
I always say it this way. My dad was rich in integrity, but poor in financial education. So my dad was the poor dad in that tale that I really related to. So I went to a private school. Everyone was the rich dads. And I was like, wow, there's a whole nother world than this, lower middle class that I'm used to. So, but I'm still very thankful for my father in many ways. But I started in the financial industry that young, started seeing my own clients at 18, started SWAN Capital, Sleep Well at Night Capital at 20. And the rest is history. We now manage retirements for hundreds and hundreds of retirees, hundreds of millions of dollars under management. So it's a real honor.
Man, that's awesome. And boy, you did start young. I mean, right out of the chute. So I went out and became an entrepreneur in a whole different field and learned the ropes of how to be an entrepreneur. And of course, we're all still growing in that. And it's one thing to be a great advisor in this space. You have to learn how to become a good business owner, which is a very important skill set. But one of the things that drives me is helping clients be better stewards. It's our first core value is stewardship. And so we have what we call SMART values at our firm, Retire Smart, and the first one is the S is stewardship. We want clients to be better stewards of their money. And so that's what I wanted to focus on a conversation with you, because you and I are of the same belief that, we have a giving crisis in this country. And charities are set up to do the bidding of the things the government shouldn't be doing. And charities, frankly, are better at doing it, right? They're more efficient at it. The more dollars actually the more resources go to the end causes. In fact, you wrote a book on this, and I'll be happy to share with everyone that you sent me a copy, and I absolutely was happy to give you a 5-star review on Amazon and Google. And the book, it's called The Giving Crisis. In fact, it's right behind him on his bookshelf there. So I encourage you watching this podcast, if you want a good read on giving, get this book off of Amazon. It is a great read. You will not put it down. It's one of those you'll knock out in a weekend. So I'm a big reader, and I crank through a lot of books. So anyway, you did a great job. Was this your first book, by the way?
No, I wrote a book on tithing. It was a very short read. And then this book that I really just poured my heart into, because, we do have a giving crisis. The average American gives less than 2% if they give at all, while during the Great Depression. And I spent a year living with someone that lived through the Great Depression. Me and my grandfather were two bachelors after my grandmother passed away, and we lived together. And he told me the tales of how bad the Great Depression were. But when I did the research, during the Great Depression, the greatest generation actually gave 3%. So they actually gave more during the Great Depression than we do in the Great Expansion of today. And that was really convicting. It's like, how can we be so abundant right now in one of the most abundant times in not only U.S. history, but all of history, yet we're the least giving? And is there a correlation between depression, anxiety, and suicide that you would think is not correlated with good times, but is actually it's completely correlated to these good times that we're living in? And that's a shame. It should be that way.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point, is the psychology of when you give of yourself, whether it's your time, your energy, your resources, your talents, or even just writing a check or donating assets, etc. We have some common language we use in the building, so to speak. So one of the terms we use in our office is called, "Are you in the village?" That's when you're having a rough day. Something's not going right. People get in the village, they get huff and puffy or whatever. So we always just ask, "Are you in the village?" And, may I coach you? We want to coach people out of the village. That's not where people need to live, but that's our intern. But the way out of the village is to serve someone else. The best way to get yourself out of depression or just feeling down is to go serve another. And it's amazing how fast they can get you out. So I think that's really important that you brought up, because we do live in, let's face it, today is a much more victimhood society. Everybody's oppressed or a victim of some reason. The political world kind of pushes that down. It's the messaging of the day. And
well,
they
it's a
want
selfie culture too. I mean, it's not only just a victim culture, it's a selfie culture. Like everyone's just taking a bunch of these selfies. We call them lonelies in my family. Like everyone's just taking a lonely picture. It's all about me and my happiness. And the problem is that's not where you find happiness. When you dethrone, in my belief is Jesus should be at the throne of your universe. When you dethrone him and put yourself and your desires, actually your whole gravity, the rotation of your life starts to fall out of whack because you don't belong to have all that glory on your shoulders. And I think that's why so many people are unhappy, and they're just wondering, like, I thought that when I made 6 figures I'd be happy. I thought when I made 7 figures I'd be happy. I thought when I had a 8-figure net worth I'd be happy. And they're not.
Yeah. No, that's such a good point. Money is not the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil, right? Money is a resource and a tool, and it's something that's needed in today's society. It's what we use to barter and trade, to buy goods and services, et cetera. So certainly it's an important piece of the pie, but we want people to be stewards of their money, their other resources. And so one of the things we challenge people with is, and we ask every client when they come in, it's kind of like almost a Columbo-esque question, the way I ask at the end of what we call a vision appointment. The first time somebody comes in, I was like, oh, by the way, are you charitably inclined? Do you give to anybody? And, oh, we give a little to somebody. I'm like, well, do you mind if I ask what's a little? And we find out kind of what they give. And it could be, we don't give anything. We give $3,000, or we have several that give very large sums. I have a couple clients that give over 6 figures like myself every year. And they love it and they feel good. And to the point, they're happier than the ones that kind of hoard, if you will. I think giving, it puts a smile on your face. And as my wife always reminds me, we can't outgive God, and so
it's a real paradox. I mean, it's an upside down kingdom when you realize that it is better to give than to receive. And it's not just a maximum that's old and cliche. No, I mean, it's where you'll find truth. That's where you'll find happiness, is through the giving of your time, your talents, and your treasure. And I wish more people would realize that. And that's why I wrote the book, is we have a crisis going on. And I think if we were more giving minded, I think it would cure some of the mental health issues that we have. And I know that's a bold cry. That's a bold remark, but I believe it's true.
I think you're onto something there. I will tell you, though, people struggle with it. And I will tell you, self-admission, when I first started making a 6-figure income many, many years ago, we would go to church. I was always the giving skeptic, right? Well, what are they going to do with it, right? And so while I gave to the church I attended, I wasn't actually tithing. I wasn't giving a full 10%, and I wasn't giving with the right attitude or the right heart. And then all that does is put you in a spiral of questioning and skeptic everything, where today I'm a pretty generous dude, and my wife sometimes says I'm a little too generous with folks, and I bless people, whether that's through charities or just giving, or I often are the one picking up tabs at dinner, and I just don't even worry about it. I just I've got it, I can use it, and bless others. And so I think it changes the script when you give for the right reason. Like I used to always be the captain skeptic. You pull up to the red light and there's a homeless person there, and someone yelled at me the other day because I gave a 20 to a guy. He's like, well, he's just going to buy a liquor. It's like, that's not my problem. I gave with the right heart. I'm hoping it does the right thing, but I
don't think we should ever put out the spirit of giving. Like we should never put a fire extinguisher or water on the spirit of giving. Again, you can't control what they do. Now, is there better ways to do it, more efficient? That can be debated, but you should always, if you feel inclined to give, you should give. And this is really comes back to, I always speak to the person I once was. Like the person I once was when I started at 14, interning at that financial firm, I started waiting tables at Denny's. And that was the first time that I was earning cash. And
you learned some good customer skills. Let me tell you, if you were waiting tables at a Denny's, you have learned how to deal with happy people, sad people, pissed off people. So you've developed some good sales skills.
People get mad if you mess up their eggs. I'll tell you what. So I was starting to accrue money for the first time in this job, and I accrued $62,000 by the time I was 16. And I was interning at this financial firm, and the stock market crashed in 2008. And this whisper I had never heard before came out of nowhere, and it was like, you should earn more. You need to make more. And so I put my money in the stock market and it turned into $142,000. So here I am 18 and I hear this louder voice that you should have more. You need to have more. You're not successful. You think that 142,000 something. And so I kept on pushing and trying to make more at my jobs, my 2 jobs, and trying to grow those investments. And I ended up, it's the best thing that ever happened to me, David, is I actually lost everything, which I always tell people is impressive if a financial advisor loses everything. Like a lot of people, they lose something. I lost all of it. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I was taken down to my knees for the first time. And instead of listening to this voice of greed that was always over the shoulder of me, telling me to push harder, make more, work harder, work longer, I had to actually self-reflect on like my self-worth and my net worth are so connected. And I don't want that to ever happen again. And so the person I speak to is that entrepreneur, that business owner that has pushed hard their whole life, that's very ambitious, and they've connected their self-worth with their net worth, and they seem so unsatisfied, yet their net worth keeps on climbing. And so that's why I wrote that book, is about how to give half your income away like we do as a family, and how to give most of your net worth away. And that's where I found great joy, and also this removal of the temptation of greed, like it had such a stronghold over me.
Have you read Die with Zero? Another great book if you've not read it.
I actually have.
So, I mean, and that kind of gets into the experiences of life, et cetera. But I mean, you've attained this and do what makes you happy. And we have to arm wrestle clients to spend their money. I mean, clients are of a certain generation. So we have clients in their 70s that they've gone through some rough times, right? They've seen it and they're fearful for the next rough time. And I do believe we have a recession in the cards here in our near future at some point. And so they're always, kind of that mindset, cringing up, don't want to spend any money. And we kind of assure them we've done all the planning, and with the tax planning and the income planning and the risk reduction, we're not running out of money, even if we go through hard times. So live a little, right? Spend a little money. But sometimes when we get them to go out and find things to do, because some struggle, let's face it, there's a psychological transition when you walk away from a 40-hour week somewhere. And so encourage them to go volunteer at their favorite charities. Or we have one client who gives these amazing talks at schools. He's found his niche. He's in his 70s now, and Andrew, he goes all over the Midwest now. He dresses up in full regalia, does Thomas Jefferson, George Orwell, gives these historical speeches in costume, gray wig, everything.
Wow.
And he has found an amazing, and now the museums hire him to do it. And so now, and then he's donating money. So he goes, gives the speech, and then donates to whoever he's given the speech to. And it's just fulfillment beyond imagination. He comes in with all these great stories every year on his annual review, and it's so fun to watch clients just kind of light up when all of a sudden they realize for the first time giving of themselves, whether it's the money or their time or volunteering. And as a practice here, we have like 12 core charities. So we kind of review the list every year, but every month we feature a charity, and we write a base check to that charity every month, but we also serve. And so all of our employees sign up, and we have one of our employees, Chip, who's actually my co-host for my podcast and radio show. Chip kind of leads that, and he gets them to sign up, and he takes 6 to 8 employees offsite every month somewhere, and we serve, whether it's stuffing backpacks for back to school, which was season right now, Salvation Army we've done, or Soup Kitchen during the holidays, or like we just sent 100 kids to camp, and a local charity here, a Catholic charity called Open Door Mission, and the coolest thing is they send us back pictures. First time these kids from, they just don't have the income level. They live in impoverished communities, unfortunately, and so they've never had the experience of going away for a full-blown summer camp, and they're getting go-karts and going pool rides and zip line. And
cool.
We write a check every year to send at least 100 kids, and we'll probably continue to up that. But I love it when we get the pictures back and then share with our staff. Now our staff feels good seeing what we're doing in our community. And we always talk about kind of our mindset here is, listen, I've got to serve my employees first. And I always tell my clients, look, my employees come before you. I don't get upset, but if I don't serve my employees, we can't serve you. But then we can serve our clients. And if we can serve our clients well, we're going to have profit margins and revenues that are going to allow us to now serve our community. And that's kind of our mantra is the way we take care of it. So I take care of my team. My team takes care of our clients. And then because of that, we're able to then reach out and take care of our community. And our clients reach out with several charities every year. We can't do every one of them. So now we've had to actually put together a committee because we have scaled and grown. I've got 30, almost 40 employees now. So we're getting pretty big. And so it's fun, all the suggestions that come in, the charities that we can give back to. But it's just amazing when you see someone who's never volunteered before, their first time, Andrew, walking in and serving. I've gone and done many of these where we've sorted boxes at a donation center. I mean, it's just really cool to see the employees engage in whatever we're doing. We've done cleanup at different places. I mean, and we support a wide range of charities. So I just think it's great to get the employees to give back at the charities that they love. Do you guys do anything like that at the employee level?
Absolutely. And I think why that's so important is we need to realize that charities are amazing institutions, but businesses can be that. They have a refunding mechanism that's really the cyclical organism where you can extract capital and also reinvest in your business, but also reinvest in your community. And again, the team wants to be a part of that. Who doesn't want to be a part of a noble mission that's giving to noble missions? And I think that is what business should be, again, championing the most in our country, is that business is a mechanism to support other charities. And we don't have to rely on the government that they know what's best for us. No, the people in the local communities know what's best. And so that's why the church and that's why charities exist, to do what the government can never, ever do efficiently.
Well, I always like to explain to people, too, this is why the incentives are congressionally established and signed into law, is because the government, in its wisdom, and again, we can argue about the government today, it's a lot of political rhetoric, but in its grander wisdom, they, too, realize that charities can deliver these services at a more efficient pace, and therefore that is why they are allowed to be tax-free entities, and why you're allowed to give to them and get an incentive, a tax deduction, if you will, in a myriad of ways. And so what we try to do is teach people how to take full advantage of the tax credits, if you will, because you are helping society. And so that's why the government says you don't have to pay me. Instead, put this money over here because you're going to provide resources that now the government does not and should not have to provide. And if people could just get that mindset, because unfortunately we've got, and again, people that watch my show kind of know where I lean politically. I'm a registered independent, but I'm a fiscal conservative. I usually vote with the right hand, right? I always tell people who I am. I own that. But it's funny though, David, that the culture is throwing stones at churches and charities that they don't manage money well. And I'm like, compared to who? Compared to you? You don't manage your own money well. And then, compared to the government? You think they manage their money well? Yeah, so I don't know many churches that have to borrow, 8 times their annual revenue, to survive each year and add to that debt. It wouldn't work out too well, right? So churches do incur debt sometimes, and sometimes they take on more. Now that's the other thing. If you are a member of a congregation, I would tell you serve that congregation, get on their committees, and help them be good stewards of their money.
It's also optional, right? Like if I get on the stewardship committee of a church and I see how they're actually managing it, I could choose to take away my membership. I could not go there anymore. I could say something. Try to do that to the government. Say, hey, I just don't want to pay anymore. I'm going elsewhere. They're going to say, well, we'll put you in prison. We can put you there if you don't want to pay your taxes.
Well, that's just it, too. Ultimately, you get to vote with where you send your resources, right? And that's the great thing is I'm a stickler for charities. If they're a new or upstart charity, I have a little more grace because their expenses will be a little heavier. But I have charities that I really like because I get 94, 95, 96 cents efficiency with every dollar with some of them. And that's amazing, It
is amazing. Super cool.
I was on a board of a charity when I lived in Florida. This is a while back. But basically, we were a backpack program for kids. So kids that couldn't afford or they're being malnourished, we discreetly slipped in non-disposable food for the weekend for them, snacks and meals. And this started on the couch of a friend of mine, turned into about $1 million a year organization, all volunteer run. At that point, we realized we have to hire staff now. So we went from giving 95 to 98 cents of every dollar given went to literally buying food for the kid. Well, now we have to hire kind of a CEO to run this charity. It's a real organization and 2 sub-employees. Well, now we have about $200,000 in expenses. And so we had someone complain, hey, you guys were at 98% efficient. You went down to 76% the next day. I was like, that's the cost of growth for this charity. So you have to keep that in mind too. Where's that charity in its stage? And the other thing, though, I agree, though, wholeheartedly with people that some charities should not be paying their CEOs $4 million. There are several out there that do pay a little on the excessive side. And I was on a national, I don't want to bash anybody, but I was on a national charity. They have a red symbol that kind of makes a plus sign. But anyway.
Well, I mean, it's good
on the admin side.
You got to keep these charities accountable, because at the end of the day, we want to live our lives like charity. What a good, responsible charity should do is keep their expenses low, pay the salaries to sustain the standard of living, and give to the cause and the objective. And that's what I encourage people in the book to do, is you should start to live your life like a charity, saying, not how much can I make and spend, it's how little can I spend and be happy, and then devote my extra income, my discretionary income, to worthwhile charities and objectives. And that is a life of fulfillment. I mean, that's what Man's Search for Meaning is all about, is finding those areas of fulfillment that really feed you. I mean, look at the areas in your life that really stir you, that make you angry. There's a charity, there's a passion right there. Look at the thing that breaks your heart. There's a charity or a passion that you need to be a part of.
Man, that is so true, Andrew. I think that's really cool. So let's pivot into now helping people understand that when they're giving, so now someone maybe has decided to give for the first time, or they're giving regularly, why not take advantage of the incentives within the tax code? Now, you and I both deal with a lot of retirees, senior citizens. Our average client here is over 65 years of age. But once someone surpasses 70, right, the most underutilized tax strategy, according to Ed Slott, who's kind of a guru in IRA tax management that I've been in his group for years, he talks about his QCDs, or qualified charitable distributions, right? So once someone has reached what's called RMD age, or the old RMD age, 70 and a half. Now there's 4 RMD ages, but anyway, anytime you're 70 and a half or above, if you're giving to charity, you should be taking that donation from your qualified account, like an IRA, right? And so you could be distributing money from that IRA directly to the charity. This would satisfy those required minimum distributions if you had to take them and didn't need them, but you wouldn't be taxed on the money. So you're still giving the charity the same money, but now you're just getting the added tax benefit of you didn't get taxed on that distribution. And for a lot of clients in the tax code today, we have such a large standard deduction, right? A married couple, if both spouses are over 65, it's almost 34 grand they get to knock off via standard deduction. So they're not likely to itemize, at least not the average American anymore. And so when they do these charitable gifts, they're not getting any tax benefits. And so I kind of always like to show them, hey, if I could make that a little more tax friendly, could you give a little more? In other words, if they were going to pay 22% and now I got rid of the 22%, hey, we could increase their donation by 22%. They have the same money, right? But now the charity has benefited more.
And we've all witnessed where I've watched families that hadn't ever met with a financial advisor that focused on tax planning, and they go years taking money out of their 401k, taking money out of their IRA, paying taxes, then walking over to their church on Sunday to give a tithe, walking over to the Habitat for Humanity on Saturday and getting nothing for their generosity. And to witness this go on for years is so sad, because if they were to send up to $100,000 a year from their IRA to a 501c3, they pay no taxes. And so I always joke that, like, we love tax-free investments in our firm, but you know what I like better is to never pay taxes at all. So if I can get a tax deduction within my IRA, then it grows tax deferred, and then I can take it out tax-free. I never paid the taxes, which is amazing.
Absolutely. And so you can eliminate RMDs, which could never have to pay tax potentially on those deferred dollars that you've been waiting on. And why this is so important is for the tax planning, not to go too deep in it, but so many seniors are going to be in for a rude awakening on the hidden taxes of Medicare, right? Medicare Part B and D. And so basically, if you go over a threshold, currently about $208,000 for a married couple of income, and this is not after deductions, by the way, this is before you get your standard deduction, that income, for the Medicare penalty. So now you have to pay Medicare B penalty, Medicare D penalty. If you're married, both spouses pay. That's 4 taxes plus the income tax. Now, you're blessed to live in a state that doesn't have a state income tax. We have it here, right? Now there's 7 taxes there. And oh, wait, we got to pay Social Security 1, Social Security 2 are now taxable. 8 taxes on one distribution from an IRA. And nobody is telling these folks this is what's coming. So not only do we want to do the tax planning, but now they're able to actually give more efficiently, bless others, and feel good about there's more for them if they need it, if they have not saved enough, et cetera, to overgive, et cetera. But I mean, it's the power of proactive planning. And again, I always say, you should be planning with someone who has the expertise, knowledge, and experience you're looking for, right? And there's a lot of great financial advisors out there. We always say find a fiduciary, typically an independent-based one that's going to give you a true, experience you're looking for. But then find one that maybe aligns with your values, and that's really important too. Finding an advisor that maybe has the same belief system as you do, and that's why my dad always told me, son, you're kind of in sales. Don't talk about religion or politics. And every time I speak publicly, one of the challenges I gave myself, Andrew, was to evangelize more from a public stage. And so I learned how to kind of put it in there. I use humor to do it, but I always talk about, look, my dad said never talk about religion, politics. I'm knocking that out of the way right now, folks. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and I typically vote with my right hand. If that's a problem, that's okay. You never have to come see us. But I put that into almost every time I speak publicly. But and you'd be amazed at how many people just come up to me afterwards. I'm so glad you said that. That was really nice that you and because we don't profess, our love for Christ.
I mean, we should be bold. This is what this country was built on, is religious freedom. But I think it's important what you were talking about with working with an advisor is just don't go it alone. And so many times people think that they're saving money by not hiring a financial advisor, and then they make tax mistakes. They think they can do a QCD, a qualified charitable distribution, from their TSP or their 401k or 403b, and it's because they don't know all the tax law. And so again, you think you're saving money, but in the long run, you're actually costing yourself family money, and they're costing your family less time spent with your loved ones. And so don't go it alone. Again, as the old adage goes, you can go fast alone, but you can't go far alone.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about another strategy there. So donor advised funds, great strategy for those that want to give. And even for those that maybe have just been turned on, maybe they read your book and they're like, you know what? I've never really been a giver, but I think I should start giving. And they're not sure who to give to. That's the amazing part about a donor advised fund. You can give now and then step back and take your time, a month, a year, 10 years, to figure out who you ultimately give those dollars to, but you get the tax benefits now. And so a donor advised fund is a great way. So we use this for a lot of our clients that walk in the door, say 60 years of age, and if they were given, say, 10 grand a year, what we want to do is pre-give whatever they're going to give between now and RMD age, because we want to take advantage of the lower tax rates right now. So let's just say their RMD age is going to be 73 or 75, it would be today, if somebody's 60. So, and if they have it available, and they have to have this, the funds available, in that example, we have 150 grand they're most likely going to give between now and RMD age anyway. Why not take that from a highly appreciated stock or mutual fund portfolio that they have, transfer it into a donor advised fund? One, we've eliminated capital gains on those investments forever. And two, we get the income tax deduction today, where we now can do things like Roth conversions while tax rates are lower, hugely important, and get a double whammy of tax savings. We're compounding the tax effect, but now they can give away the 10 grand a year they were giving every year, so the church or the charity gets the money in the same time frame. Nothing changed, but we accelerated the tax benefits, simply understanding the incentives in the tax code. And you're right, that one move would exponentially, if we ran it out to age 90, could save a client probably $200,000 to $300,000 in lifetime taxes on Medicare income, et cetera, and Social Security. And what's the cost of a financial advisor, right? A small fee every year to get this kind of ongoing advice, and somebody who's going to stay on top of the legislative changes. And boy, there's a lot expected to come here. Our budget is, we're at $35 trillion. We're going to, here's the scary thing. Just this morning, Andrew, we ran our numbers. We're going to be at $40 trillion in 3 years.
That's crazy.
And so we have to stop this nonsense of overspending, and we need big boys to come to the room, but that's going to take a while. But
that's true.
The one thing I'll just tell people, Trump is, I'm not his biggest fan, but I'm an independent, but I will pull the lever for that side of the aisle this time. One of the things that excites me, he's going to be a one-term president again. So no matter what, he's got 4 years to come in and make his impact. So he can be a little bolder potentially if he gets in there and maybe make some real cuts. We'll see. But anyway, it's interesting to do that. So that donor advised fund, though, you can can donate cash, you could donate assets, you could even donate real estate if you had it to those.
And we also talked about the standard deduction. Is some families that are on the cusp of do they itemize or do they take the standard deduction? And you can talk about this, David, but it allows you to potentially put 2 years of deductions so that you can itemize and just take the standard deductions in future years. So you can actually get more tax benefit by utilizing that.
And on top of that, if your state allows it, you can prepay your property taxes. So if you had property taxes and say your property taxes were $5,000, you can give 2 of those, get to the SALT deduction at $10,000, right? So the county's going to take your money if you want to pay your property taxes early, right? You pay those twice and then use the donor advised fund, really double whammy, and then take standard deduction the next year. Exactly. So now you're getting all your charity deductions and deducting 2 years of taxes in 1 year, and then the next year you standard deduction, and then lather, rinse, repeat, right? And keep doing that and every year or every 3 years, whatever the pattern is for you. So great use of strategy, Andrew. I love hearing that you guys do that. Now, the SALT deduction here is a little bit of a sore subject. We are in a red state in Nebraska, but property taxes are through the roof here. I have a house down in Melbourne, Florida area, about 1,000 feet from the Atlantic Ocean. Property tax is about $5,000 a year on it. I have a house here, Andrew. So I paid less than $350,000 for this thing about 5 years ago. My property tax is almost $15,000 a year.
Wow. That's crazy.
Because we only have 1.9 million people in our entire state. So this is where they get their revenue. It's nuts. But anyway, it's a sore subject here because everybody hits the SALT deduction here with property tax just living in modest homes. But anyway, now what I want to do is kind of pivot to maybe even some more advanced strategies that clients could utilize. So one of the things we do is a lot of charitable remainder trusts, and there's a myriad of uses available for these. So you have 2 primary versions of that. You have what's called a CRUT, a charitable remainder unified trust, or a CRAT, a charitable remainder annuity trust. The basic difference is one is going to give the same amount out every year. That's the annuity trust. It's not an annuity like a product. It's just you're annuitizing the exact same amount of donation every year. The other one is going to be a percentage of the value of the trust, and the minimum would be, say, 5%. So if someone donated $1 million asset, one, they could eliminate taxes on that asset or defer them technically. They could then have income flow back out of that trust for a period of time or for their lifetime, but they get tax benefits of both deferring or eliminating the capital gains tax on the asset they donated. And then they get a gift tax reduction. They made a gift. Now, it's a reduced amount based on a formula, based on how old you are, how long the trust is going to be, how long you've been in the asset, et cetera. But basically, typically, it's going to be between 15 and 45% of the donated assets. So if it was 45% on $1 million gift, that's $450,000 off their adjusted gross income today. And so they could do a Roth conversion with that and not pay any taxes, move $450,000 from your IRA to a Roth and not pay a thing. That's a pretty good deal. But then that charitable remainder trust is going to be their legacy, their bequest at death a lot of times. And you can change it. As long as you structure this right, we can change those charities so that you're blessing charities later with what remains in the trust. And then for estate tax planning use right now, which is really important, the rules change less than 14 months, 15 months. We're going to have a massive reduction in what you can exempt from estate tax. You could pre-give these assets now, use the income from that trust now to fund a secondary irrevocable life insurance trust, an ILIT. I'm sure you're doing plenty of those these days, and really set up either to benefit a charity, your grandkids, your kids, to pay any state taxes. I mean, there's so many things people need to be doing, but it all does. It ties into what are you giving, what are your intentions, what do you want to do, who do you want to help? And unfortunately, we see a lot of advisors just don't go very deep. They don't peel the onion back, so to speak, as I call it, by asking a lot of questions. Because if you have a client and you've been a financial advisor, and I coach a lot of advisors. You may know I do these different training programs. I had an actual advisor get on the horn with me here about 2 weeks ago. A client they've had for 12 years has this massive gifting thing they've been trying to set up strategy for. Never had this discussion with the advisor.
Wow.
And it came about based on that person attending one of my little mastermind classes and asked the right question. And all of a sudden, the client's like, well, I didn't know you could do that. And so we are setting up a charitable trust for this individual, helping the advisor do it. But their end goal, and the advisor didn't even know, this is so passionate about what the client really wants to achieve. And so it's eye-opening for the advisors to really find out this is what's driving the motivation, what your client wants to do. Because once clients have enough, they're not going to run out of money, you kind of let them know they should be doing something to what puts a smile on their face. And again,
Absolutely.
There's only so many vacations
and this is
you
why
can
it's
take.
so
and,
important to spend quality time with your client or spend quality time with your financial advisor and get in there real deep of what your wishes, what your objectives are with your finances. And anytime you have a major liquidity event, you have a business sale, a large inheritance, things where a big liquidity event happens, we need to start talking about charitable giving and how we can use that charitable giving, if you're charitably inclined, to help offset these taxable gains on this liquidity event. So major time, anytime you have a big life event like that you need to sit down with your financial advisor, re-explain what your objectives are. Hopefully they're asking that of you to better understand you, but that's the whole point of being in close connection with your financial advisor.
Well, one of the things I always like to tell people too is we have clients that kind of we manage the bulk of their assets, but they have what we call their play account, right? They just kind of, some clients like to, I still just want to pick a few stocks, and that's fine. Around my part, a lot of Berkshire Hathaway folks. We have right down the street here, which just hit $1 trillion this week for the first time. So Berkshire is now a $1 trillion company. You can count on one hand how many there are. So that's pretty cool. And so they're not going to sell that, right? The Berkshire Hathaway fans. I'm a shareholder. So we're not going to bill on that. It's not going to be an asset that we're going to bill. So we typically set it up in a separate, what we just call client managed account, if you will, where they can hang on to that asset. But one of the things we've taught them is we set up a donor advised fund. We take, if they were given $25,000 a year away, we take $25,000 of Berkshire Hathaway stock every December, roll it into the donor advised fund, put $25,000 into their non-qualified account. The next day, buy Berkshire Hathaway back, no wash sale rule because we donated the shares, sell them, no capital gain, and just every year we increase their cost basis. So if they ever did decide to sell it, they don't have to pay or the tax or very reduced tax bill. Again, it's just learning how to use all these strategies incongruent with what the client wants to do anyway. So
very cool.
I will tell you another strategy, if you're not aware of, is called a CLAT that may be becoming very prevalent, and you might want to read up on these. If you're not, we'd be happy to help you. But so that's a charitable lead annuity trust, right? So the opposite of a charitable remainder trust, a charitable leads trust gives the charity money now. And my good friend and one of my mentors, and I've read over 40 of his books, John Maxwell, I was blessed to actually have dinner at his home earlier this year, got invited to a very small group. It was an amazing experience, but I coin his phrase all the time. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I'd rather do the giving while I'm living so I'm knowing where it's going. And I absolutely love that. And so what a charitable leads trust will allow you to do is do just that. You can donate an asset or cash, whichever one you want, into a lead trust. We can set up an income flow off of that 5%, whatever the number is going to be. We can set the time period of this trust. Most common is about 20 years. And the charity gets the income every year, so you get to see them blessed, but you got the entire tax benefit today for the 20 years of giving. Now, what people don't know is there's a discount rate for when you give to these trusts. When we set them up, it's basically IRS sets the rate. It's the 75/20 rate. And that rate, as interest rates go down, goes down as well. The lower the rate, the bigger the gift is, the bigger the charitable gift you get. And it was April or August, somewhere in there, I'm paraphrasing the exact month, but during 2020, when we had COVID hit, we had that rate go all the way down. It was started about 5.5%, went all the way down to 0.4%. Wow. So you got a massive extra gift. So just a real simple example, you could have given $100,000 in 2020 to a charitable leads trust. We could have sent $5,000, 5% distribution every year for 20 years. So you gave $100,000 to the charity. You would have got about $147,000 back at the end of 20 years if you're still alive, if you wanted it. So wow. You gave away $100 now, got the tax benefits of the $100,000. The charity got $100,000, and you get $140,000 back, or your kids or grandkids if you're not here. I mean, there's amazing things what you can do with proactive tax planning, especially in the giving world. So I just encourage people, really do, to get out there, read, think about what giving means to you. And of course, we're talking primarily right today of giving assets or income, but give of your time. I cannot stress enough. Go volunteer somewhere, a couple hours a week. I mean, I used to, make my kids when they were younger go and do soup kitchen duty with me, et cetera. And they kind of, oh, why do I got to do it? And afterwards, like, man, that was awesome, Dad. Thanks for making me do that. So I just think people need to get out and give of their time as well.
Absolutely. It gives your children, especially if they're born on third base or born already on home plate, it gives them a different perspective of appreciation that otherwise, how would they get? They've only known that everything comes easy. And so it doesn't come easy to everyone. Some people are born with disabilities, born with not, two parents. And so I think that is always really smart to bring your kids along for those community days.
Very good. Well, I would tell everybody, check out Andrew's book. We're kind of running out of time here. I'm going to be having to get out of here in a minute, but The Giving Crisis is a great book. You can get it on Amazon or wherever you probably buy books online, Barnes & Noble. I don't know where you get them all these days.
The audiobook version is available. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Everyday Philanthropist, where I answer questions about philanthropy, tithing, giving, and also our podcast. I've had some really great people like Kurt Warner,
You've gotten some
Dabo
amazing
Sweeney.
guests on your podcast, by the way. Absolutely. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, there's just so many great philanthropists out there, and I get to interview them and hear their story and their passion. So check out all of that on Spotify and Stitcher.
Very cool. All right, Andrew, I want to thank you for your time this morning, and
it's an honor
look forward
to
to seeing you. Will you be in the same place I will be next week?
I will be in January, the same place you are.
All right. Very good. All right, well, we'll catch up with you then, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much. Bye.
You got it.